Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of FanFic Breakdown. I'm your host, SmashKing24,
And I'm legit ElizabethWWEFan.
and we're here today to talk to you about all the latest and hottest Super Smash Bros. Fanfictions happening in your archive. This week, our story is Mannequin by Paradigm of Writing, a horror romance story that was published about a year ago, a year and a half ago-ish.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's just jump right into the plot. Marth Torn is a high schooler with a social problem that quickly evolves into a mental problem. His love turns into an obsessive vengeance over his cheating girlfriend Samus Kale and drives him to the point where he does the unthinkable to her.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, it's gonna be another one of those stories, another horror story.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're actually doing another one of these, but I don't know, this story, I wasn't expecting much from it when I started reading it, and right when I got to the end of it and then reread it with the twist in mind, that's when I'm like, oh, actually, no, this is a lot different than I thought it was going to be. And we'll explain what the twist is later on. So, basic summary of the plot is, it's a very short story, so it's pretty straightforward. We've got these characters, Marth and Samus, who are based on Marth and Samus from Super Smash Bros. And Fire Emblem Metroid. And they're pretty much the only characters that make any kind of impact on the story. Marth's this socially, I don't want to say he's
Awkward.
is he socially awkward? Because he knows how to speak and everything, but he's a little bit weird. I imagine he'd have like some kind of weird habits going on. The quiet kid, at the school. No one really talks to him. And he ends up meeting this girl at the library, Samus, and they take a liking to each other, and then it starts off great. They get hooked like almost immediately, which is like, wow, that's great. And he's so happy, and he loves her, and she loves him, and everything's great. And then one day, something takes a turn for the worse, and he finds that Samus is actually cheating on him. He finds this at the school one day, and I'm not sure if it happens like in the same week or like in the next month. There's not really any there's no measuring of actual time taking place in the story.
Yeah, I would assume it probably would happen over a couple months, but who knows really?
Yeah. So he finds this, and then all of a sudden, like a switch turns on in his head, and he basically just says, "Okay, we're not doing this." But he doesn't just. And when he confronts her about it, she just tells him, "You don't want me to, like, I can't be just yours, Which I'm just like, well, isn't that kind of the whole point of what a relationship is, Samus? But he kind of takes it further by saying, like, you belong to me and nobody else. And that quickly evolves into a crazy psychopath. It kind of takes a 180 really quick. He's the crazy guy. And I'm talking crazy, bad crazy, as in he's the kind of guy that would go and, like, shoot up a school if he really wanted to. And what basically happens is he goes back to Samus, and he kills her, the guy that she was with, who she was cheating on with him, and does away with them. He gets rid of the other guy's body and like throws in a lake or something, but he takes Samus, and it's like, I kind of expected this in Paradigm. He always does this in his horror stories, where the person will take the victim and just take them to their house or to some secret location underground or something, and then just torture them like mindlessly, which is which is gruesome, but I mean that's kind of the way he does it, and you feel really bad for it. It doesn't really go into too much detail though, which I think is okay. You're kind of just really there to see Marth and his crazy psychoness, if that's the word for it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And that's more or less how the story ends. It's very short. And we're really just here to go along with and view the experience from a third-person perspective of this whole tale unraveling. But it's honestly not even that dark compared to what I know Paradigm has been capable of.
Oh yeah.
Overall, though, I thought it was a pretty good read, and a very short read too, with only 2,500 words or so.
Yeah. It's definitely not your, like, nice, happy fanfic. It's dark.
Yeah, I know. It's
very dark.
Yeah, he's kind of known for doing that kind of thing. It's also So as we said, we went into the characters, and in terms of personality, there's not really much to say about them because it's all kind of told from Marth's perspective.
Yeah.
Even though it's a third person narrator, it's still kind of told from Marth's
Yeah, he's a
perspective.
very unreliable narrator when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, it talks about a lot of the stuff, like the writing is flawless. Like I love his writing. It's always like so good with the descriptions and the use of like the imagery and all that stuff. Like that's all great. The thing I noticed though that, and it tends to be a problem in a lot of Paradigms fics, is that he makes the dialogue and the narrator kind of one and the same person, even when the dialogue's being spoken through other characters. It's like when the characters speak, they're using the same kind of dialect the narrator would. It's not really dialect you would, like a person would say when talking to other people. I'm trying to look for an example here. Yeah, okay, so Marth grabs her hand in his, he kisses it, and then he goes, "All you do is complain about how I don't allow others to have fun with you, when all I'm saying is that I'm afraid you're being run out like a cloth. There's too much going inside that sweet head of yours that you can't concentrate on the most important thing in your life." And so he says that, and the narrator kind of follows the same vibe in terms of speaking to the readers as well. And for me, I don't know, it makes the characters themselves not really seem human in a way. They're kind of like just puppets playing with the narrator. Yeah, I know. I know it's not easy. It's not easy writing characters, but I don't know. It's something you gotta have to kind of take into consideration as a writer. You know, you don't wanna just write yourself in the characters. You want to make the characters stand out in their own way. Like the characters are both fine. It's just that in terms of things that they say to each other, I feel like, and I've said this to him about a few of his other stories too, it's just something I noticed because I have no problem with his writing at all, but it's the characters themselves, because I'm a guy that really likes his characters. So in terms of improving the story, that's the only really major thing I'd have to say about improving the story, because everything else was totally great.
Oh, absolutely. It was an incredible story.
Yeah. So if we haven't already hinted at it, this story is an AU, or it's a modern AU setting. That's where it takes place. It's like a post-high school, or no, not post. They're in high school, and Marth and Samus are just like regular teenagers, just like everyone else is. It's kind of self-explained, nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
The coolest thing about this story, though, and that's kind of what I had to like do a double take after getting to the end, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing here. And then I actually read through it a second time, and I'm just like, wow, that's actually the coolest thing about this story, is that in this story, it's broken up into like 10 sections, each with its own broken off by a break line.
Oh, and,
yeah. So you read the story in order from top to bottom, and at the top of each break line, there's like there's a number, but the numbers appear just kind of randomly. And at first, I thought the numbers were referring to like the time of the day. So like the very first section says 7, and then it talks like Marth sits at his kitchen table. Then the next section is 3, and then he slides his arm around her wrist. So I'm like, okay, so is this like the time of day where this is occurring? Like it's all on the same day? But then it goes from like 7 to 3 to 1, and I'm like, wait, is that 1 in the next day, or is that something else? So that's when I got kind of confused. I'm like, okay, what's the context here? Like, what's the point of all this, having these numbers at the top of the sections? And then you get down to the bottom, and he basically spells it out for all the idiots, including me, that you should read the story in the order of the numbers the sections are there. So I said, oh, okay, so I actually did that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what it's going, because reading it the first time, you'll notice that the story is scrambled. Like section 7 comes before section 3, but it doesn't feel like the story is jumbled as you're reading through it. Like it feels like you're just looking at bits and pieces of the story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when you actually do read it in order from 1 to 10, you actually get to see the entire story take place sequentially and in order. And I actually didn't even catch it the first time, because I've read a few Paradigm story, and sometimes he'll jump around with things, but it's all for like the kind of effect he's going for, when time isn't really a factor, and he's kind of just trying to tell the story as it is around the characters.
Yeah.
Seeing it here where the sections were scrambled and then reading them unscrambled, it kind of showed you 2 different perspectives on the same story. The first perspective, when it's scrambled, is you're kind of looking in and out at events that are taking place at different points in the timeline. And then when you're reading the unscrambled version, you're just seeing it front to back. And if he had left the unscrambled version as it is, you would not have gotten the same effect as he did doing the scrambled sections.
Oh, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, because the scrambled sections, they kind of make the reader wonder, like, okay, what the heck is going on here? Because Marth starts off, you know, he's sad, like Marth's sad all of a sudden, and then it jumps to a part where he's happy, and then it's great, he's with Samus. And then it jumps to a part where he's depressed and he wants to kill her, so it's like, whoa, like, this is getting intense. And then reading the unscrambled, it all starts to make sense. I've never seen a story do this, so...
No, I haven't either.
Yeah, so I don't know if there are other stories that do this, but this is actually a really cool effect. I've never even seen before in actual novels either. I'm pretty sure it has been done before, but looking at it here, like, man, I actually never even considered the kind of potential this sort of setup had. Yeah, so that's definitely the one coolest thing that you can get from the stories. If you're gonna read this story, you're gonna want to read it just for this whole section scrambling thing, because it's actually really cool the way he tells it. For a story that's so straightforward, it makes it kind of seem more complex in a way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's definitely the coolest thing about it. Other than that, there's not much else to say except for the fact that it was a great read. It was short, and it does give you some chills going through. You're just reading a story about this crazy guy who starts off normal then goes crazy. The main theme of the story is you're gonna want to read it if you're into like, I don't want to say if you're into murder or horror, but if you're into like if you're into reading like crazy murder or revenge horror stories, this is basically it. This is basically your bread and butter.
Oh yeah.
The quintessential example, if you will.
The quintessential indeed.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Mannequin by Paradigm of Writing. Any other thoughts?
I think it was just amazing. I really, really did. I love it. I reviewed it originally when it first came out, and I do not regret it one bit. It was amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You had no problems with anything at all?
Well, no, I agree with you with like the dialogue being kind of off and whatnot, but other than that, other than what you brought up, I had no issues with it.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of hard to find stuff to complain about with Paradigm of Writing. I've read a few of his stories, and he's actually pretty good. He writes a lot of AU Super Smash Bros. Stories, though, so if you're not into that, I can't say I would suggest this story to you or any of his stories, but if you are, then man, like, they're definitely like right up there in terms of the writing quality.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that wraps up the review. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you're interested in the series, please feel free to submit a comment or a suggestion on a story that you'd like us to review.
We have a very, very short list, so I would definitely send in requests if I were you.
Yeah. If you don't see a video from us in a while, it probably means we're reading other stories that we haven't read yet. So that's just a heads up for anyone who's following the channel.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check us out on our respective websites, and to follow us on Twitter and fanfiction.net.
Thanks for listening, everyone. My name's SmashKing24.
And I'm legit ElizabethWWEFan.
Happy smashing.